Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Geaux247 podcast. This is our preview for LSU and Mississippi State. If you enjoy the podcast, feel free to subscribe, follow us on Twitter at Geaux247, and check out all of our content on Geaux247.com. I am Matthew Brune, and joining me today is Sonny Shipp for our preview podcast. Sonny, how are you doing?
Good, man. What's going on today?
Oh, just another beautiful day here in Baton Rouge. It's great weather, so I can't complain.
No, and I don't want to listen to you complain anyway. So let's talk some football, huh?
Let's do it. Well, let's get to some housekeeping stuff before we get underway and look at the game. Obviously, the big news from the week: Andre Anthony out for the season. That was something that I don't want to say caught people off guard because we kind of knew it was something, but still, him being out for the year is a significant blow to this defensive line. Obviously, we still expect the defensive line to be good, but nonetheless, he was a great interview for me, and he was a great leader by all accounts. So he'll still be around the team, but he is out for the season. Expected to play this week: Ali Gay, Dwight McLaughlin, Chasen Hines. All three of those were either limited. I mean, Chasen Hines played last week as well, but McLaughlin's been out for a while, but he played a bit last week as well. And then Ali Gay should make his return. Sage Ryan, I saw, was in a yellow jersey at practice. I don't expect him to play. I don't think he's ready, but he was out there at practice. And then other players out, Sony Fanua and Jontre Kirkland, hoping to get them back next week, I believe, for academics. And then Cam Wire is doubtful, just on all accounts of Coach Orgeron. And so they don't expect to have him. The left tackle position is a very interesting point that we will talk about a lot today. And then Derek Stingley left practice. We know that. We don't know his status. It's uncertain to this point, unknown. So I'm not going to speculate on it, but we do know that he left practice and was banged up. So, and then lastly, Mason Smith moves to defensive end, I guess permanently at this point. Coach O spoke about it at length, and so he said it's the right move for him. So of all those, notes, do you have any takeaways, Sonny?
Yeah, I would put Todd Davis Price in there. I would list him questionable for Saturday just because of the injury that he suffered, and then also Armani Goodwin. It looks like he's going to play on Saturday, so that's another reason that I think that we could see a limited Todd Davis Price if he isn't 100%, but. When you look at the list of walking wounded, Matt, it's really been that way all season, even, midway into fall camp. The list of guys in gold jerseys just began to pile up. And, on one hand, it's you think it's looking a little bit brighter when you see you're getting guys like Jay Ward, Armani Goodwin. You're getting some of these guys back, but then on the flip side, you see Derek Stingley leave practice. You see Andre Anthony go down for what is a season-ending injury for Andre Anthony, and that's just that's just horrible. It's horrible for the kids. It's horrible luck for LSU, and it's just something that I don't think I've ever seen before. This many injuries this early in the season, and they just continue to mount up.
I forgot about Jay Ward. That's a good catch there. Jay Ward, I think, is expected to play, and so that'll be a big boost to the secondary if he is able to go against Mississippi State. And so now I think we can move on to Mississippi State now. And last year we have to start with that. I mean, 44-34 loss for LSU at home. I mean, KJ Costello goes out, passes for 623 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks on 36 of 60 passing. Kylan Hill, 20 yards of reception on 8 receptions. I mean, Mississippi State did whatever they wanted last year. And so I think a lot of LSU fans want to forget it, but we have to kind of look back before we look forward.
Yeah, and it was a tough one to look back at. There's just LSU fans probably still see Mississippi State players streaking past their TV wide open with no one in the picture. I mean, that's how it was. It was just a tough day all the way around. And, it goes back to, I think when you look at that game plan and you look at what went wrong, what happened, it all goes back to LSU staying in their man-to-man defense all game long. That just had people just screaming, how about we play a little bit of zone? How about we play a little bit of zone? And you never saw Bo Pelini make those adjustments that he needed to make for LSU to be able to counter the Mississippi State passing offense. And man, I mean, 623 yards. You have to try very, very hard to give up that many passing
Yes.
yards.
Yeah. No,
I
it's
mean, that's so
incredible.
many.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. And I remember, I mean, when I got hired for this job, what, two months ago or whatever it was, I went and started watching last season back over again, and Mississippi State was obviously the first game I put on, and I was just, shocked by what I saw, because obviously this is, 2019 champions coming off of a title and playing a home game against Mississippi State, and then just getting thrown all over the field with Derek Stingley, Eli Ricks, and whoever else in the secondary. And so I think you bring up a good point, Bo Pelini. They just didn't adjust at all. There were no adjustments, and that's what it kind of felt like a lot earlier in the years. They just were unable to adjust, unable to really improve in their coverage, and as a result, KJ Costello just diced them up. And KJ Costello, we all know, is not like an NFL caliber quarterback by any means here, and he still just looked amazing against that defense. So that was not a great showing, but like I said, we have to go back before we go forward.
Yeah, and hey, KJ Costello for 1 week there, he was Vegas's favorite to for the Heisman Trophy. After he played LSU, they didn't know that every quarterback that played LSU would throw for 350, 400 yards and have set career highs and all of that good stuff. But as we look back at this one, and as we look back at at some of the other things that that went wrong, I'm sure you saw this, and and circled this as something that has to improve this year. But the play on the second level of diagnosing the play, of filling the right hole, of just the whole concept of being able to pass receivers off and things like that. It was all just so lacking from the get-go in that one right there. Damon Clark, Jacoby Stevens, they had him playing up closer to the line. They had him backing up. Whatever LSU did, they never really looked like they were all on the same page. You go back and you look at every play, and there's guys moving around, there's guys looking around. It was issue after issue, pre-snap and post-snap.
Yeah. And that's what made the UCLA game so concerning to start this year, to start getting into this year. The UCLA game was just kind of more of the same, right? We were just receivers running down the field unchecked. Like the run game was working for the Bruins. And so that's what made it so concerning. And then as the year progressed, McNeese State, I still think was a little concerning, but it wasn't, at least there was a little improvement against an FCS school. And then Central Michigan last week, I think was, an actual step in the right direction here. What did you think of the Central Michigan game defensively from the LSU side?
Yeah, I thought it was definitely a step in the right direction. And I think that when you go back and when you look at the offense, you look at the defense, you look at everything, and it was the most complete game that LSU has played since since that 2019 season. I don't think they played as complete of a game all of last year as they played against Central Michigan. And it came at the perfect time. I mean, it came at an absolute perfect time, because everyone on the outside was already questioning the LSU team after the loss to UCLA. And it continued after the loss to McNeese. It's like, okay, man, these guys 34-7 over McNeese. What are they, why are they not getting it? Why are they not coming out with fire? Where's the energy at? Where's the passion at? Well, they showed all of that against Central Michigan. So after hearing it questioned, now they see it, and they see it, now they can go back, they can look at it on tape, they can see it on the field. They remember that feeling. Can they take that next step? Can they do it now against an SEC opponent, but then also have to do it on the road? That's a big question that Max Johnson has to answer, because last year he played in the Swamp and they had some fans there, but the Swamp last year was nothing like Wade Davis Stadium is going to be on Saturday. Yeah, it's in the early morning kickoff. It's 11 o'clock, but there's still going to be cowbells all over the place. It's going to be pretty weather. Folks are going to be out there early and stuff. So it's going to be a ruckus atmosphere. So, is Max Johnson able to take that next step? Because I think what he's going to play in Saturday is going to be a lot less friendly than what he saw at UCLA. He's going into an SEC stadium on Saturday. Big game for both teams. Both teams, the fans, know how big it is for both teams in the season. And so, is he able to take that next step too?
Yeah, that's going to be a big question here. Let's get to our preview. Let's start previewing this game, Mississippi State's side of things. Let's look at LSU's defense versus Mississippi State's offense. As we all know, Mike Leach, the leader, the god of the air raid, and he hasn't changed up at all this year. I mean, you look at Will Rogers, their quarterback, has already completed 75% of his throws for 1,083 yards, for 8 touchdowns and 1 interception on 122 of 163 passing, a 145.6 efficiency. They are completing a lot of passes, and however, they're not doing it at a large clip as far as yards per reception goes. A lot of their stuff is shorter. A lot of their stuff is to the running back. And that's kind of what teams are making them do this season so far. A lot of teams are like Memphis, like Louisiana Tech, are kind of giving them the underneath stuff and saying, we're not going to let you beat us over the top. And they do have talented receivers, Mississippi State, but they haven't really been able to utilize them as much as maybe they've wanted to this point, because of how defenses are playing them. And, defenses go into the game knowing they're not going to run the ball on us. So we're just going to drop 7, drop 8, maybe blitz here and there and to mix it up. But it's been pretty routine what this offense has seen. And so I'm interested to see how LSU's defense approaches it, if they try to do something different, because I think LSU's defense has more talent than anybody Mississippi State has faced to this point, even though, NC State and Memphis are quality teams. I think LSU's defense is more talented. And so do they try to, mix up their coverages, man, zone? I think you have to play zone, but, how do you get pressure on the quarterback? Because if they can get pressure on Will Rogers, I think that makes this game very, very interesting from an LSU perspective.
They have to get pressure on Will Rogers. You can't let him, you can't let him just sit back there and just pick you apart. I went back and watched all their games, and what I saw from Will Rogers, I didn't see anything, spectacular as far as, amazing arm strength, just, terrific ball placement on every throw.
Yeah, he looks pretty normal.
That's what I was going to say. He looked pretty normal, I did like how he moved up. He slid up in the pocket. He moved around in the pocket a little bit, created a little bit of time, kept his eyes downfield. And a lot of his yards, I think, comes at that point, instead of him just tucking the ball and running, or making an errant throw. He buys just enough time. But he, like you said, he hasn't played a pass rush like LSU yet. He hasn't seen what he's going to see from Mason Smith, Jaquelin Roy, from, Neil Farrell, BJ Ojulari, go down the list of guys. And I think that's going to be pivotal. Pivotal is getting that pressure on him. And what Durante Jones has to try to figure out is that, okay, when you drop 8, how do you get pressure with 3? If you're going to show that you're dropping 8, where's this extra blitzer going to come from? We haven't seen from Durante Jones. We haven't seen him blitz much at all. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen much movement at all. LSU is basically lined up on defense and said, okay, this is what we're in. Attack us. And it was frustrating to watch against UCLA. You didn't really care against McNeese. You saw a little bit of variations against Central Michigan, but you expect to really get an idea of what Durante Jones is going to bring as a defensive coordinator. Against UCLA, you had those busts, you had the miscommunication, you had the issues that led to the big plays that haunted LSU last year. So what kind of improvement are we going to see from Durante Jones? Because how his defense responds to the to what Mississippi State's gonna throw at him, with the short screens to the running backs, with getting the running backs matched up against the linebackers, with if with Derek Stingley's injury, we know that he would, if he plays, which I don't think he will, but if he would play, then how limited would he be? So we have those issues that's going to directly impact how LSU is able to defend that Mississippi State offense. And you have to think that LSU's probably got a little bit of juice on that side of the ball in practice this week, just wanting to prove them, wanting to get back at them a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I mean, you just turn on the tape of last year's game. I think that does the trick. I would feel like for anybody on defense. I mean, that last year's showing was all you
That's
really
punishment
need.
right there, making them have to go through and watch that.
Exactly. That should be all the motivation they need at that point. But I think you bring up a great point. Through 3 games, we've really only seen one alignment. I think Coach O even said on his radio show last night, he was like, we really, against Central Michigan, we really only called one or two, different defenses. So he even kind of admitted they haven't really changed anything up defensively. And like you said, they haven't really had to outside of the UCLA game, where I just don't think they were ready for that game to make those changes. So hopefully now going into game 4, going into the SEC, there's something we haven't seen yet, whether that is bringing more pressure in various spots, dropping out to 8, just certain twists and turns that the defensive line can do to maybe create even more pressure on the quarterback. Because while they'll be able to get pressure on Will Rogers, are they going to be able to get there fast enough? And, how will they be able to tackle in space if he gets the ball out of his hands? So there's a lot of different questions I have here. And I will say, though, Mississippi State's offense really hasn't been overly impressive through 3 games. I think they should have beaten Memphis just because the only 2 of Memphis' touchdowns were off a punt return and a pick 6. But still, you lose that game because the offense didn't get going to the fourth quarter. You almost lose to Louisiana Tech because the offense didn't get going to the fourth quarter. NC State was I guess the one consistent showing that they've had, but this Mississippi State offense really has been subpar. I mean, based on what we've seen from Mike Leach from the past 20 years, this is an offense that hasn't got it going. They have the time of possession way in their favor in all 3 of the games, but they haven't been able to do anything explosive. They haven't been able to take the top off defenses or really do anything dynamic. They still don't run the ball. So I'm looking at this LSU defense. I think that the LSU defense I think they're going to have a good day.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of guys, when I look at the state offense, I really hate the matchup, whether it's Jaquavius Marks or Dylan Johnson.
Yeah.
I hate the matchup of either one of those guys against LSU's linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
That just, that's worrisome right there. I don't see many scenarios at all that favor LSU in those situations.
They're going to have to tackle in space for sure.
Yeah, they're going to have to tackle in space for sure. And, as far as the receivers go, I do think Mekhi Polk is legit. I think he's a dude. And then I think Tulu Griffin, I think they call him, it's like Lydia Trick or something like that, but they call him Tulu. He's returned a kickoff for a touchdown. He's returned another kickoff a long ways. You watch that guy on tape, and I mean, he is fast. He's explosive. He's quick and he's shifty. But they've only been able to get him he's only got 5 receptions on the season. So they haven't been able to get him the ball on offense a lot. What LSU cannot, you cannot let the most explosive player on the field beat you, right? You want to make someone else beat you. So Avery Atkins, I know you got a big leg and everything and stuff, but do not kick it to this guy. This guy will return it 6 yards deep, 7 yards deep. And he's shown that he can hurt you in that situation. So don't kick to him on kickoffs. If they put him back there on punt returns, please don't kick to him, and just try not to let this guy, because this guy, he's one of the, some of the announcers would call a little jitterbug. He's just so fast and so explosive out there.
Yep. Well, let's move to LSU's offense versus Mississippi State's defense. I think pretty highly of Mississippi State's defense to this point, even though, they haven't been perfect. I don't think they're as good as LSU's defense, but they've been able to stop the run. They shut down Memphis's run game pretty much to 3.5 yards a carry. I think they have decent corners for the most part. They've been able to play man in their first 3 games a good amount. I'm not sure how much they're going to be able to play man against LSU, but I think this defense has the talent to give LSU some problems here. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think they've got two really good cornerbacks and Emmanuel Forbes and Martin Emerson. Forbes and Derek Stingley Jr., they're tied for the lead right now and for the most career interceptions among active players in the SEC right now. So that gives you an idea of where he is. He returned three for touchdowns last season. So the guy knows he knows what to do when he gets the ball. But I think they're good. I think they've got some talent right there. On the second level of their 3-3-5, it's a big Louisiana flavor. Tyler Sweet, a big 260-pound linebacker, Aaron Brule played at Rummel there in New Orleans, and I think they're good. I don't think there's anything that just screams outstanding about their linebacker play. The defensive front, I think they're good along the defensive front too. But I do think that if LSU is operating like it did against Central Michigan, I think LSU can score a lot of points against this defense. The key for me is Max Johnson and the offensive line. The running back, the tight end that they keep in to help out in pass blocking. Are all of those guys able to decipher where the blitz is coming from? Because Zach Arnett, he's going to line people up. He's going to have people standing around, jumping around pre-snap.
Yep.
He's going to rush 3. He's going to drop 8. He's going to do what you would expect LSU to do, to try to confuse the quarterback, try to get in his head, try to get him thinking just a little bit longer. You get him thinking just a little bit longer, gives you time to get there to him and stuff. So, I think that how Max Johnson and how the offensive line is able to handle the blitz, that's going to be huge right here because, I think Mississippi State's going to say, okay, we don't expect LSU to come out and try to run into a brick wall like they did against McNeese State. I think Mississippi State probably expects LSU to come out and do like they did last week, which was use the run to set up the pass.
Yep.
And so in doing that, for me, it's all about, okay, you got to give Max Johnson time. You got to get, he has to take his chances with the RPOs like he did last week. Linebackers get up a little bit. He hits them with that pass. Maybe now is the time to, we didn't want to see Max run the ball a whole lot. We didn't want to see him take a whole lot of hits, but I don't think you can take that element out of his game when you play a team like Mississippi State. You have to have that option in there 2, 3, maybe 4 times a game now that you're in SEC play. So, how does Jake Peetz handle that first game in the SEC?
Yeah.
How does he handle that first road game in the SEC when the pressure gets intensified a lot more? I think he, let's hope he had the deer in the headlights look against UCLA and he got that out of his system, and that he doesn't have that on Saturday.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about Mississippi State's front. I mean, especially against Memphis, they had the quarterback from Memphis, Seth Hennigan, really rattled with their different linebackers coming up, dropping out. Defensive linemen dropping in, dropping out. I think a defensive tackle almost had an interception against Memphis because the quarterback was trying to make a quick throw and the defensive tackle dropped out real quick and just swatted the ball down, and couldn't catch it. But that's going to be interesting to see Max Johnson's ability to process information, get the ball out quick, be on time. And still, I think I wrote this in our roundtable, I still need to see more consistency out of the big plays because, they did it against Central Michigan. And I think a couple of those were spectacular catches. The 2 to Deion Smith and the Jack Betch touchdown. I think those are great plays, but now you're going against an SEC defense. Now the explosive plays are going to have to be manufactured a little bit better. than they were against Central Michigan. So that's what I'm interested to see is, can they take the top off the defense still? Because I don't expect them to be able to run the ball that effectively. But like you said, it's just having the threat of being able to run and then setting up the pass from there. So that's going to be an interesting aspect from this LSU offense that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it's going to be a, it's last week we had Central Michigan circled as to like, okay, what is this LSU team?
Yeah.
Now against Central Michigan, we think we saw a little bit about, okay, of what this team could be. So now it's okay. So now the next step in the process is, let's see him do it against a better team.
Yep.
And so I think that's why everyone's kind of looking at it, because on your roundtable, one of the questions was, which game is the one that you have circled? And I was like, well, this is going to sound kind of corny right here. And I'm going to say it's going to sound like coach speak, but this game right here, because it's the next game on the schedule. And it's like, and I caught, because last week I caught myself of putting a lot more emphasis on how LSU looked against Central Michigan than I probably ever have for a group of 5 team.
Yeah. No, for sure. Me too.
And so, and granted, I didn't put a lot of emphasis into how they looked. It was like, okay, I know they can look like that. You're not impressing me that you did it against Central Michigan. You're impressing me that I can see that you can do it. Mm-hmm. Now impress me by going out and doing it against Mississippi State.
Yep.
Impress me like that.
Yeah. So we will see how they respond. I'm really interested to see this environment on the road, how Max Johnson plays and how the offense gets going from there. Let's look at the spread real quick at this moment. And it's been like this for most of the week. LSU is favored by 2.5. So very small spread there. The over-under is at 56.5. I like the under for 56.5. I'm of the belief, I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring game to this point. I think Mississippi State's going to do what they've been doing and kind of, I don't want to say hog the ball, but, have these kind of long drives where they convert a couple third downs, choose some clock just with these check down throws. And I don't think LSU is going to get beat over the top very much. So I'm going to say under 56.5, and then we can get into our predictions if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm going to go, I'm going to go over.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go over on that. I think I think I would not be shocked at all if you saw a score up into the well into the 30s for both teams.
Interesting. So then what's your game prediction?
Oh man, I tell you what. Prior to Wednesday, I was feeling pretty good about LSU. You getting some guys back and everything. You hated to lose Andre Anthony, but you were getting some other guys back. That I felt was some critical positions like Jay Ward, for instance.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Derek Stingley leaves practice, and then his status for Saturday. It's a big question mark revolving around that. Even if Derek Stingley, even if he would be able to play, I would question, how effective, he would be. And for me, that just flips the game in a big way. That flips it from I went from feeling like, okay, I like LSU in this one, thinking 31-20, somewhere in that realm. Now, all of a sudden, I'm worried about Mississippi State, about LSU being able to stop Mississippi State, because, you're taking out one of your veterans of your secondary, and you're having to put someone new and someone relatively inexperienced who doesn't have a lot of experience, putting them on the other side. And so that really starts to concern me a little bit. So I'll feel better if Stingley is able to play. For right now, I'm going under the assumption that I don't think he will play. That's just something that my gut tells me. And I think that that's going to lead to some problems for LSU. So if Stingley doesn't play like my gut's telling me, then, oh man, the board's going to hate me, but I'm thinking Mississippi State 34-31.
Okay. All right. I completely agree. I think as far as the Stingley thing, I mean, if they put Dwight McLaughlin out there or whoever else out there, Darren Evans, I don't know who they'll replace him with, or maybe they just move Cordell Flott outside. I don't know, but that's going to be a really interesting point to see, because the continuity wise in a zone, you have to be on the same page. You can't have bust. We saw what happened last week when there were bust and Major Burns got caught out of position in the zone, and Central Michigan, busted a 75-yard touchdown. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they're able to do it. I'm of the belief that I think the defensive line continues to play really, really well. And I think that they're going to be able to get to Rodgers enough to make it easier on everybody else. And if Jay Ward is back, I think that's a boost as well. So I'm going to go barely under the 56.5. I'm going to go 30-24 LSU, because I trust the defense enough to hold Mississippi State under 30. So I'll go 30-24 LSU. But it's going to be
I like it. And and granted with I do like the fact that I've probably got about another, from the time we record this, I've got about another 24 hours before we have to put the preview in print. So I still have that flexibility to where I can change my mind on that prediction. So
yeah, this isn't
just a heads up in case you listen to this and you're wondering why what you read doesn't match what you hear. That's going to be why. I reserve the right to change that prediction, as fluid as the Derek Stingley situation is.
I've already changed my prediction. I went on the radio earlier today and said 27-21 LSU. So now I'm at the 30-24 LSU.
Nice.
So who knows where I'll be by tomorrow when we have to send in our picks.
Hey, by tomorrow you're gonna have Max Johnson catching 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, huh?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be 44-34 LSU this time. That's what it's gonna be. We'll see.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Well, good to finally hook back up and everything, man.
Yep.
From the hurricanes and stuff and everything and all. And I'm excited that we finally got some SEC football to watch now.
Oh yeah. Well, yep. Thanks for joining me, Sonny. Again, y'all can follow us on Twitter at Geaux247. You can follow our podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to check us out. Send us to a friend. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. And we will talk to y'all later. Thanks for joining us.